everyone, welcome back to the studio for episode 3 of Above the Ring. I've got the reins today, so lucky me. We've got Greg.
Let's see how she goes.
We've got Greg and Guy here as well, of course, and today we wanted to focus on an athlete-centered approach as a coach. And often when we're out in the community, we work with athletes that have maybe come from an individual sport and really only played individual sport up until the point we work with them. And then we also often have players that have only ever played team sport. And today we want to really chat about the different strategies that we can use when we're working with those types of athletes.
Yeah, because I think it's such a great thing to understand when it comes to your coaching approach, how much you will get out of athletes if you are athlete-centered. Look, individual athletes, I love this topic because I grew up as a young athlete that did both, and I really enjoyed exploring the process of being in an individual sport, but also loved enjoying the process of being involved in a team sport. What I found though, as an individual athlete and working with those types of athletes, is often you see that their self-discipline is incredibly high. They're motivated, they're goal orientated, because again, it's just about them. It's a bit all about me almost. And in terms of how that works, that almost brings out more of an analytical brain as an athlete, which is such a great characteristic to have, because you're able to perform a task, analyze it, see where you can improve, and then implement that change. I just think, yeah, it was one thing that I hang my hat on when it comes to being a successful athlete. If I didn't do those individual sports as a youngster, I'm talking about, golf and, sports like that. Athletics was a big one for me. And then going into playing netball and playing footy, I just think that I wouldn't have been as driven, or I wouldn't have learned the ability to be as driven if I didn't play those sports prior to going into team-based sports like netball and footy. I often also say to young athletes, you see, it's not about what you do when somebody's watching, it's about what you do when nobody's watching. And that's such a key to being an individual athlete, because whilst you're out there, mucking around and playing with your friends, somebody else out there who's involved in the same type of sport is working hard, and they're more likely to see the success based on that hard work than you are, because you're not investing the same amount of time. And ultimately, I think individual athletes live by their sword, they die by their sword. If they put in the work, they'll get success. If they don't, then they won't. Some really key traits to being an individual athlete, but also being able to then bring it into a team sport as well.
And I'm probably on the other side, as I probably played a lot of team sports when I grew up, and I did do some individual sports, but it wasn't my main focus. And I think some of the great things that they can bring to a team is, obviously they're very inclusive of everybody that's involved within their team, and you often would refer to them maybe as the social butterfly. So they're there because they want to interact with people and they want to get everybody involved, whatever walk of life they're from. So I think that they're really great to have in a team environment, because they can kind of do all your work for you a little bit and get everybody involved. But they also know what their role is within the team, and they often, maybe the players that aren't as skillful, or they're not there to succeed for themselves, they're more there to succeed for the team, and they'll do anything humanly possible so that the team succeeds or the team reaches their goals. And I think that that's really important as well, because they all know their role. You can almost give them a little task and they'll go out and achieve it, and it might not be about them getting every second pass as the ball comes down the court. But they'll do their role so that the team gets their success, or is able to feel that success. So there's some of the really great skills that come from a team, and I think you need a bit of a mixture of both for a team to really succeed. And I think that that's the beauty of a team sport, is that unlike being an individual athlete, is you need a bit of a mixture of both for it to be able to create a great culture and team environment.
Yeah, because if you look at that, I think they're the pros of both that come from individual athletes and team-based athletes. The cons as an individual athlete, it's all about me, and sometimes that can come out when they then join a team-based environment. They have to be the one that are doing the fancy things, or they have to be centre of attention all the time. Whereas the cons for a team-based athlete are probably more that they can hide behind some of their teammates and not come out and do the things that they necessarily need to, because there's 6 other players out on court, and as long as they do okay, or even at training, as long as they're trying, then generally the coach won't pick up too much. So there's cons to both as well. Having an athlete-centered approach, though, and I think that's one of the things that we love to talk about and work on, and to engage. If we talk about engaging individual athletes, it can be really easy if you take the right approach. And for me, my 3 takeaways to engage individual athletes or athletes that come from individual sports is give them homework, or give them a home program, give them something to take away, because that they are driven, they are motivated, they will want to do more because that's what will help them succeed. The second one, they're analytical, so give them an SSN game or find a World Cup game or a Commonwealth Games match and give them a task, get them to analyse the game, and then also ask them to relate that back to what they would like to see out on court for their own performance.
And just on that, if you've got the opportunity to film your own games, obviously that's even better. So not everyone has access to that, but if you do, I would definitely look to that first before an SSN game.
Yeah, because juniors, there's not a lot of times where you would see a game filmed, but seniors, yeah, definitely. And if you are even working with that semi-elite level, VNL or state league, whichever country you might coach in, that's where games often get filmed, and you can draw back on that experience. My third one, they like to be centre of attention, so get them to be a demonstrator, or get them to run the warm-up. Give them a task that enables them to be the voice and feel like they're out the front, but also has a benefit to being a team player.
Yeah, and I think some of the ways that you can engage that team-orientated athlete is to think about what their kind of role would be within the team. And I think that's really important, is to know the players that you're working with, what their roles would suit their personality. And so, they're the social butterfly of the team. So get them to take the lead in the social functions or the team functions around. They might be the ones that come up with the fun team game at the start of the training session. They might come up with the team chant or something like that before they go out onto court. They might be responsible for knowing whose birthdays are when and how you celebrate that in a team environment.
Which is always good.
Yeah, and they, it doesn't necessarily mean they have to bake for every holiday, but they might then divvy that out or delegate that out to everybody and be the leader of that. So I think it's really important to know what roles they can play in the team environment.
Yeah, and on that note, even creating like a buddy system within the group that you're working with allows them to take a bit of leadership on as well, and really work with another player, but be able to give feedback to that player, but also then be able to take feedback from whoever their buddy is. Lastly, I think if you can look at ways to create a technical goal for an athlete that is really team focused, because often they are out there, wanting to help everyone out on court and really trying to keep the spirits up, but it's really important that they still develop as an athlete as well. So if you look at a wing defence, for example, that might, do all that hard work out the front of the goal circle and often create intercepts for all their teammates, you might set them a goal of 1 intercept per quarter or 2 intercepts per game, just so that they are still working on their craft themselves and just trying to improve as well.
Yeah. Again, I think all of those, you want a combination of players that have come from individual sport or experienced individual sport and try and bring out the positives in those, but also embrace those that may have only been around team sports, because if you can get that culture really well knitted together, then success becomes more than just winning a game. Success becomes the journey along the way, which, as a coach, we want to experience that. So definitely encourage you to have an athlete-centered approach to your coaching. And on that, I think we had a question from episode 2, which was all around coachability versus coach's ability. And the question was, how do you approach someone or a player whose coachability is impacted because of their belief that they are better,
more knowledgeable?
more knowledgeable or better than the coach that is actually coaching them? And what we thought we might do is, we don't have a great inspire battle for this episode, but we are going to prepare, and we're going to do next episode 4, all around that question. Okay, so we will address ways that you can approach that scenario and help overcome that barrier of having a player that might think that they're better than you or may have more knowledge than you. So keep your eyes peeled. And on that, if you've got any questions about today's episode, if you've got a topic that you would like to see us covered as well, or even a challenge that you would like us to see, we are going to try and cover lots of different sporting arenas when it comes to those challenges. So nothing's, well, I shouldn't say nothing's off limit. There's probably a couple of things that are off limit.
But please think about me and how I can win challenges, knowing my athleticism might not be quite as good as the boys.
Oh, that's not true. You're pretty good at
let's
chess
be honest, yes. I need some really creative ideas for challenges that I can win.
All right, but until next week, if you're back out on court coaching, happy coaching. If you're not yet and you're preparing to get back out on court, happy preparation time. If you have questions, reach out to us. Otherwise, have a great week, and we'll see you next episode.
Thanks for tuning in.
See ya.